There was a report apparently on the 4th of January of seabirds being seen dead in Falmouth Bay, possibly being removed by someone from fishing nets, although that's unclear. Yesterday I received a telephone call from Cornwall Wildlife Trust to say they've got bodies that they would like examined, and would I be prepared to examine them. So they delivered these birds last night, and we've got 26 altogether, mostly shags but also a cormorant and razorbill and guillemots. So what I've got to do now is carry out post-mortem examinations on these and see whether in fact they have drowned or whether there's some other cause of death. Because as you know, we've had this tremendously bad stormy weather recently, and it's possible that that could be implicated, or it might be something completely unrelated. So far, I mean, as you can see, this bird's in really good muscular condition. It's in good plumage, it's got subcutaneous fat, it's looking like a really healthy bird, and it's in breeding condition. The plumage is excellent. So this was basically, it looks like this was a very healthy bird until right until the point when it died.
And 26 birds, what would that represent in the population of the birds in that area?
I wouldn't know that, unfortunately. I mean, shags are not uncommon around our coast, but what I think is perhaps a bit unusual is that they're normally seen along the rocky coastline, but these were all found in Falmouth Bay, which is possibly not, a typical location. And so what I suspect may have happened is that with the extreme stormy weather, they may have moved away from the coast where it was so rough, the rocky coast where it was so rough, to get into the shelter of the bay. But as what proportion they are of the population, I don't know. Having said that, I mean, shags aren't that common. So we've got, what is it, 22 or something out of the total that are shags. Probably quite a significant number, and of course there may be many more. I mean, this is just somebody's managed to collect these, but I mean there could well be more out there. What I've done now is remove the pectoral muscles, because these give us a very good guide to bird's condition. So we can compare those with data we've got on our database from previous cases, but looking at them, they look as if they're absolutely excellent. Okay.
So this being now the second bird you've looked at,
yes.
First one looked entirely healthy, and it indicates that drowning was the problem.
The evidence from the first one is very strongly suggestive of drowning. It's not absolutely conclusive, a difficult thing to prove absolutely, but the post-mortem findings were very consistent. We don't have a wildlife department in the UK, and so no one is actually responsible for these birds. There's no requirement for anybody to do anything, and although you've got organisations like the RSPB and National Trust and so on that have an interest, but none of them actually carry out diagnostic work. You can see this bird's stomach, proventriculus and gizzard, is full of food, full of fish. Now, sick birds don't go around catching fish, basically, if they're sick. So this was a nice healthy bird feeding right until the time it died. And we've seen this many times with birds that have been caught in fishing nets. It's very characteristic.
But the unusual thing here is that you've never seen shags.
No.
It's usually been guillemots, hasn't it,
in
these
the
masks?
last 34 years that I've been doing this, I've never had shags in before. It's always, as Jane says, it's always been auks.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's the weather. I think the weather has driven these these shags in off the cliffs and whatnot into the bay where they've gone into nets. But that's surmise. I don't really know why, but I think that's a reasonable explanation.
So, being a pathologist, you obviously see a lot of animals, a lot of birds being brought into you. What do you feel when you look at these beautiful birds that are brought in there?
Mostly extreme sadness, and also, I suppose, if I'm honest, a sense of despair, because it's one thing to diagnose the cause of death. I mean, for instance, when I started examining the cetaceans on Cornish beaches, we didn't know why they died. We took 2 years to work out they were dying in fishing gear. That was 1992. We published that data. Here we are, what now, 22 years later, and the deaths still continue. Nothing's really been done about it. So it's a sense of despair, really, that even when we know what the problems are, we don't seem to be able to do anything about resolving them.